My name is Tamara. I'm 38 years old. And the day I heard my husband say those words about me in Spanish, I realized my entire marriage was a lie. We had just walked into this beautiful apartment. The owner was speaking Spanish with my husband, and Marcus had no idea I understood every single word. Then he said one sentence that made my blood run cold. I stood there frozen, pretending to smile, while inside, my whole world was falling apart. Before I tell you what happened, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from right now. I need to know I'm not alone in this. Now, let me tell you how everything came crashing down. For 10 months, I had been living a double life. Every single night, after Marcus settled in front of the TV with his beer and his sports games, I would slip into our bedroom, close the door quietly, and pull out my Spanish textbooks from their hiding place, beneath the stack of bed linens in our closet. I had this whole system worked out. I'd turn on the small desk lamp in the corner, angle it just right so no light would show under the door. Then I'd put on my headphones, open my notebook, and lose myself in conjugations, vocabulary lists, pronunciation exercises. It started innocently enough. I was scrolling through Facebook one evening about 10 months ago, and an ad popped up for free online language courses. I don't even know why I clicked on it. Boredom, maybe. Curiosity. Or maybe, deep down, I was looking for something. Anything that was just mine. Something Marcus couldn't touch, couldn't control, couldn't take away from me. At first, it was just a fun distraction. I'd spend maybe 20 minutes here and there, learning basic phrases, listening to the lessons while I folded laundry or washed dishes. But then, something happened. I got good at it. Really good. Words started making sense. Sentences formed in my head. I could hear Spanish on TV and actually understand what people were saying. And for the first time in years, I felt capable, smart, like I had accomplished something real. But I never told Marcus. God, I could never tell Marcus. Because 3 years ago, I made the mistake of getting excited about something in front of him. I had found this salsa dance studio downtown, and they were offering beginner classes on Saturday mornings. I was so excited. I'd always loved music, loved the idea of dancing, moving my body to those rhythms. So one night at dinner, I brought it up. I said, "Baby, I found this salsa class. I was thinking maybe I could sign up. Try something new." And Marcus, he laughed. Not a little chuckle. He laughed hard, like I'd just told him the funniest joke he'd ever heard. He said, "Tamara, you got 2 left feet and you know it. Why waste money on foolishness?" Then he went right back to eating his chicken, like he hadn't just crushed something inside me. I tried to explain that I just wanted to try it, that it might be fun, that I needed something for myself. But he waved me off. "Baby, you know we got bills to pay. Can't be throwing money at every little whim you get." So I didn't sign up for the class. I let it go. Pushed that dream down deep where all my other dreams went to die. 2 years ago, I thought maybe I could start a small business. Just something simple. Selling handmade jewelry online. I'd always been good with my hands, creative. I spent weeks researching, watching YouTube videos, learning about Etsy and Shopify. I was so proud of myself for figuring it all out. So I told Marcus about it one Sunday afternoon. He was in the garage, working on his car. I walked out there with my notebook full of ideas, my heart racing with excitement. I said, "Marcus, I've been working on something. I want to start a small online jewelry business. I've done all the research, and I think I could really..." He didn't even let me finish. He slid out from under the car, wiped his hands on a rag, and said, "Tamara, you don't know nothing about business. That's my world. You stick to what you know." Then he went right back under that car like I wasn't even standing there. I stood in that garage for a full minute, just staring at his legs sticking out from under the car, feeling something inside me crack a little bit more. Last year, I mentioned culinary school. Just mentioned it. We were watching some cooking show on TV, and I said, "You know, I've always thought about going to culinary school, maybe getting certified, even working at a restaurant or catering company." Marcus didn't even look away from the TV. He said, "We ain't got money for your little hobbies, T. I'm the one bringing in real income here. Let's stay focused on what matters." What matters? Like my dreams didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. So when I found those Spanish classes online, something in me decided, this time I'm not telling him. This time, it's mine. He can't laugh at what he doesn't know about. He can't kill what he can't see. And I worked hard. God, I worked so hard. Every single night while he watched football or basketball or whatever game was on, I was in that bedroom, writing out verb conjugations until my hand cramped. I listened to podcasts in Spanish while I cooked dinner, with one earbud in so he wouldn't notice. I read children's books in Spanish, then moved up to news articles, then actual novels. I practiced conversations with myself in the shower, in the car when I drove alone, in my head while I sat across from Marcus at silent dinners. My online instructor told me I had a gift for languages. She said I picked things up faster than most of her students. She praised my pronunciation, my grammar, my dedication. And every time she sent me an encouraging message, I felt like I could breathe a little easier, like maybe I wasn't as useless as I'd started to believe I was. Because somewhere along the way, Marcus had convinced me that I was useless. Not with those exact words, maybe, but with every dismissive comment, every decision made without asking my opinion. Every time he reminded me that he was the one with the real job and the real money, he was telling me that I didn't have value, that my thoughts, my dreams, my voice didn't matter in our marriage. I work as an administrative assistant at a law firm downtown. I make $38,000 a year. It's not a fortune, but it's honest work. I manage schedules, coordinate meetings, handle correspondence. I'm good at what I do. My boss tells me all the time that the office would fall apart without me. But to Marcus, my job is just something I do to keep myself busy. Cute little office job, he calls it sometimes, with that condescending smile that makes me want to scream. Marcus is an operations manager at a logistics company. He makes $95,000 a year, plus bonuses. And he never, ever lets me forget it. Without me, where would you be? He said to me more times than I can count. Back in your mama's cramped apartment, that's where. Sharing a bedroom with your sister again at damn near 40 years old. Every time he says something like that, I feel myself getting smaller, like I'm shrinking inside my own skin, disappearing bit by bit until there's almost nothing left of who I used to be. Because I wasn't always like this. Quiet, submissive, afraid to speak up. 16 years ago, when Marcus and I met at that church cookout, I was different. I was 22, fresh out of college, full of dreams and energy. I laughed loud, talked with my hands, had opinions about everything. I was studying for my master's in education, thinking I'd become a teacher, maybe a principal one day. I had plans. Big plans. Marcus was 25, working his way up at the logistics company. He was so charming back then, so attentive. He called me his queen. He said we were going to build an empire together. He'd show up at my apartment with flowers, with takeout from my favorite restaurant, with little notes telling me how special I was. He listened when I talked about my dreams. He asked questions. He seemed genuinely interested in who I was, what I wanted, where I saw my life going. Our wedding was beautiful, small, intimate, at my mama's church. I wore my grandmother's dress, altered to fit me perfectly. Marcus wore a navy suit that made him look like a prince. When we said our vows, when he looked into my eyes and promised to love me, honor me, cherish me, for better or worse, I believed every word. I believed we were going to make it. I believed in us. The first 5 years were good. Really good. We were partners. Best friends. Lovers. We'd stay up late talking about our future, about the house we'd buy, the kids we'd have, the life we'd build. We'd take long walks around the neighborhood holding hands. We'd cook together, dance in the kitchen, laugh at stupid jokes. Marcus still asked my opinion about things. He still valued what I had to say. But somewhere around year 6, something shifted. Marcus got a big promotion at work. More money, more responsibility, more stress. And slowly, gradually, he started changing. Or maybe he didn't change. Maybe this was who he always was, and he'd just been hiding it well for the first few years. I don't know anymore. He started making decisions without consulting me. Big decisions. Like when he decided we were moving to a different apartment, without even asking if I liked it. He just came home one day and said, "I signed a lease on a place in the northern part of the city. We're moving next month." When I tried to say I wished he'd discussed it with me first, he said, "It's a better neighborhood, better investment. I'm thinking about our future. You should be thanking me." Or when he bought a new car without telling me, just drove up in a brand new Mercedes and expected me to be thrilled. When I said I thought we agreed to talk about major purchases together, he said, "I'm the one making the payments. I don't need permission to buy myself a car." Little by little, my voice got quieter. My opinions mattered less, until I basically stopped having them at all. And the worst part, I started believing him when he told me I didn't understand things. I started believing I wasn't smart enough to have an opinion on finances, or real estate, or investments, or any of the important stuff that he handled. I started believing that my role was just to keep the house clean, keep food on the table, keep my mouth shut, and be grateful for what he provided. We tried to have children. God, we tried so hard. For 7 years, we tried. I took my temperature every morning, tracked my ovulation, scheduled sex like it was a business meeting. We went to fertility doctors, did all the tests, procedures, treatments that cost thousands of dollars and hurt like hell and led to nothing but disappointment month after month after month. The doctors couldn't find anything wrong with either of us. Unexplained infertility, they called it, which somehow made it worse. Like my body was failing at the one thing it was supposed to do, and nobody could even tell me why. After 3 years of trying, Marcus stopped wanting to talk about it. He changed the subject whenever I brought it up. He never said it out loud, but I could feel it in the way he looked at me sometimes. Like I'd failed him. Like I was broken. Defective. We stopped trying. Stopped talking about it. The nursery we'd started planning in our heads just vanished. And with it, another piece of what connected us disappeared too. These days, Marcus comes home late most nights. He says he's working, and maybe he is. He walks in around 8 or 9, eats whatever I've kept warm for him, then plants himself on the couch with his phone and the TV. We barely talk. When I try to start a conversation, ask about his day, tell him about mine, he gives me one-word answers without even looking at me. Fine. Nothing. Yeah. Cool. On weekends, he's either golfing with his boys in the garage, handling business, or watching sports on TV. I've suggested date nights so many times I've lost count. Movies, concerts, dinner at a nice restaurant, even just a walk in the park like we used to take when we first got married. And every time he has the same response. "Tamara, I'm tired. I work hard all week. Can't you just let me breathe?" Like spending time with his wife is a chore. Like I'm some kind of burden he has to bear. I try so hard to reach him. I cook his favorite meals. His mama's recipe for smothered chicken with that gravy he loves, homemade mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread that melts in your mouth. I set the table nice, light candles, put on soft music, and he eats without even tasting it, scrolling through his phone the whole time, barely acknowledging the effort I put in. We sleep in the same bed, but we might as well be on different planets. I lie there at night, feeling the space between us like an ocean. Sometimes I reach out, put my hand on his back, trying to connect, and he shifts away, turns over, doesn't even acknowledge the touch, like I'm invisible, like I'm not even there. I feel so lonely. God, I feel so lonely. You can be lonelier in a marriage than you ever could be single. You know that? Because at least when you're alone, you know you're alone. But when you're lying next to someone every night, when you're sharing a home and a life with someone, and you still feel completely isolated, completely unseen, that's a special kind of loneliness that eats at you from the inside out. I started wondering when we stopped being we. When did we become just him and her, two people existing in the same space but living completely separate lives? When did I become so invisible in my own marriage? So yeah, that's why I kept the Spanish lessons secret. Because in those quiet hours in the bedroom with my textbooks and my headphones, I felt like myself again. I felt capable, accomplished, smart. I felt like I mattered, even if it was just to myself. I never imagined that this secret skill would be the thing that would blow my entire life apart. About 6 weeks ago, on a random Tuesday evening, Marcus came home early for once, and he seemed different, excited, energetic. It had been so long since I'd seen him animated about anything that I almost didn't recognize the expression on his face. He walked into the kitchen where I was chopping vegetables for dinner, and he actually kissed me on the cheek. I can't remember the last time he'd done that without being prompted. "Baby," he said, and there was something bright in his voice. "I've been thinking, we need to upgrade. This place is beneath us now." I looked around our one-bedroom apartment. It was small, sure, a little worn. The building was old. The neighbors were loud. The parking was terrible, but it was home. Or at least, it was the closest thing I had to a home. "What do you mean?" I asked, cautious. He pulled out his tablet and started showing me listings. Luxury apartments downtown, high rises with doormen and gyms and rooftop pools, modern kitchens with granite countertops, master bedrooms with walk-in closets, bathrooms with those fancy rain shower heads. "Look at these," he said, swiping through photos. "This is where we should be living, not in this dump." And despite everything, despite all the distance and loneliness and disappointment between us, I felt a tiny spark of hope ignite in my chest. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the thing that would bring us back together. A common goal, a shared project, a fresh start in a new place, where we could be happy again, where we could remember why we fell in love in the first place. "Okay," I said, trying not to sound too eager. "Let's look." So we started apartment hunting. Every Saturday for the next month, we'd get in the car and drive to viewings. At first, it almost felt like old times. We were doing something together. We were talking, planning, imagining a future. But it didn't take long for the old patterns to reassert themselves. Marcus criticized everything. Every single apartment we looked at had something wrong with it. The location was bad. The price was too high. The building was too old. The neighbors looked sketchy. The view was blocked. The layout was awkward. Always something. I'd try to offer my opinion, point out features I liked, suggest compromises. And every time, he'd dismiss me. "That kitchen's too small, Tamara. You don't know what you're talking about. The commute from here would be terrible. I know this city better than you. You seriously like that carpet? Your taste is questionable. The HOA fees are insane. You don't understand finances." After a while, I stopped trying. I just nodded along silently, looking where he pointed, agreeing with whatever he said. It was easier that way. Less exhausting than constantly having my opinions shot down. I started to think he was purposely finding flaws in every place. Like he didn't actually want to move. Like this was just another way to dangle something in front of me and then snatch it away. Then came last Friday night, 6 nights ago, though it feels like a lifetime ago now. I was in the bedroom doing my Spanish exercises. Marcus had been out with friends, and I heard him come home, Heard the TV turn on in the living room. I figured I had at least an hour before he'd think to look for me. I was working on past tense conjugations, writing them out in my notebook, when the bedroom door suddenly flew open. No knock, just burst open. I jumped, my heart nearly stopping. I barely had time to slam my notebook shut and shove it under the pillow before Marcus walked in. "Tamara," he said, not even noticing my panic. "Look at this." He thrust his phone at me, and I took it with shaking hands, praying he hadn't seen the textbook still partially visible on the bed. I quickly adjusted the blanket to cover it while pretending to look at his phone. On the screen was a listing. A beautiful 3-bedroom penthouse downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Modern everything. And the price, while high, was actually reasonable for what you got. "This is it," Marcus said, and there was certainty in his voice. "This is the one. 3 bedrooms, 1,200 square feet, great neighborhood. And get this, the seller's some Spanish dude heading back to Colombia, probably desperate to sell. I can lowball him." My heart started beating faster, but for a different reason now. A Spanish-speaking seller. "We're viewing it tomorrow at 11 a.m., Marcus continued, taking his phone back. "Be ready." He walked out without another word, and I sat there on the bed, my textbook still hidden under the pillow, my mind racing. A Spanish-speaking seller. Marcus would obviously speak to him in Spanish, show off his language skills like he always did when he got the chance. And he had no idea, absolutely no idea, that I would understand every word. I pulled my notebook back out, but I couldn't focus on the exercises anymore. All I could think about was tomorrow, about that viewing, about the possibility of hearing Marcus speak freely, without filtering his words for my benefit. And some instinct, some deep gut feeling, told me I needed to keep my knowledge hidden. I needed to listen. I needed to hear what he really said when he thought I couldn't understand. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay next to Marcus in the dark, listening to him snore, and I felt this sick anticipation building in my stomach. Part of me hoped I was being paranoid. Part of me hoped tomorrow would come and go and I'd feel silly for even worrying. But a bigger part of me, the part that had been slowly suffocating under years of dismissal and disrespect, knew better. That part of me knew I was about to hear something I couldn't unhear. Saturday morning came. I got up early, showered, tried to make myself look presentable even though my stomach was in knots. I chose a simple outfit, nothing too fancy, just jeans and a nice blouse. I wanted to look like the quiet, unassuming wife Marcus expected me to be. We got in the car around 10:30. The apartment was downtown, about a 30-minute drive. Marcus was in a good mood, humming along to the old-school R&B station, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. I stared out the window, trying to calm my nerves, playing scenarios over and over in my head. What if I accidentally responded to something said in Spanish? What if my face gave me away? What if Marcus figured out I understood? At a red light, Marcus glanced over at me. "Why you so quiet?" he asked. "You look stressed." I forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just thinking." "About what?" "Just hoping this apartment works out." "Don't worry, baby," he said, and I heard that familiar condescending tone creep into his voice. "I'll translate everything for you. These foreigners try to be slick sometimes, but they can't game me. I got us." I nodded and looked back out the window. "You'll translate everything," I thought bitterly. "The question is, what will you choose to translate? And what will you hide?" We pulled up to the building at exactly 11. It was beautiful. Glass and steel, modern architecture, with a circular driveway and a uniformed doorman standing at the entrance. The lobby was all marble and chrome, with fresh flowers on the reception desk and abstract art on the walls. "Now this is what I'm talking about," Marcus said, looking around with approval. "This is where we belong." We took the elevator up to the 18th floor. I watched our reflection in the mirrored walls. Marcus looked confident, relaxed. I looked terrified. My face was pale, my hands clutching my purse strap so tight my knuckles were white. Pull yourself together, I told myself. Be invisible. Be quiet. Just like always. Just like he expects. The elevator doors opened, and we walked down a carpeted hallway to apartment 1804. Marcus rang the bell. I heard footsteps inside. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. The door opened. The man standing there was probably in his mid-50s, with salt and pepper hair, warm brown eyes, and a kind smile. He was wearing slacks and a button-down shirt, casual but neat. "Hello," he said in perfect English, with just a slight accent. "You must be Marcus and Tamara. I'm Diego Martinez. Please, come in." We shook hands. His grip was firm but friendly. Then he turned to Marcus and switched to Spanish. "It's good to meet you. Your email said you speak Spanish?" And Marcus, with that cocky confidence I knew so well, responded fluently. "Yes, I do. I've traveled to Spain and Latin America for business. Picked up the language pretty well." I stood there, my face carefully blank, like I had no idea what they were saying. Diego smiled, then gestured to me and switched back to English. "And Mrs. Tamara, welcome. Please make yourself comfortable." Then he turned back to Marcus and said in Spanish, "Your wife doesn't speak Spanish?" And Marcus, without even looking at me, said in Spanish, "No, she doesn't understand a word. It's fine. I'll translate for her." Something twisted in my chest. The casual dismissal. The way he didn't even glance my way. Like I was just there. A piece of furniture he brought along. Diego nodded, and I saw something flicker across his face. But he recovered quickly and gestured toward the living room. "Please, let me show you around." The apartment was stunning. Absolutely stunning. The living room had these massive floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city. You could see for miles. The hardwood floors gleamed. The walls were freshly painted in soft, neutral tones. The furniture Diego had was modern and elegant. "Beautiful," I said softly in English, unable to help myself. Diego smiled at me warmly. Marcus barely acknowledged my comment. He was too busy inspecting the windows, checking the view. Diego started the tour, speaking in Spanish to Marcus, and occasionally switching to English to include me. He showed us the bedrooms, all spacious with big closets. The master had an ensuite bathroom with a soaking tub and a separate shower. The second bedroom was set up as an office, and the third was smaller but still good-sized. The kitchen was a dream. Granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, a huge island with bar seating. Everything was modern, high-end, barely used. As we walked through, Diego explained things about the building, the neighborhood, the amenities, and I listened. God, I listened so carefully to every word he said in Spanish. And I started noticing something. Marcus wasn't translating accurately. Not even close. When Diego said in Spanish, "The HOA fees are very reasonable. Only $450 a month, and that includes access to the gym, the pool, and 24-hour security," Marcus turned to me and said in English, "Oh, fees are about $600. Kinda high, but whatever." I felt my eyebrows want to rise, but I kept my face neutral. When Diego said in Spanish, "The neighbors are wonderful. A doctor lives upstairs, a teacher next door. It's a very quiet, professional building," Marcus translated for me as, "Neighbors are all right, mixed crowd. Hopefully they mind their business." Why was he lying? Why was he changing what Diego was saying? When we got to the kitchen, Diego said in Spanish, "All the appliances stay with the apartment. Everything is high-end. Only 2 years old." Marcus told me, "Appliances are included, but they're kinda dated. We might need to replace them eventually." I wanted to scream, but I just nodded and smiled like the good, clueless wife he thought I was. We went back to the living room, and Diego offered us coffee. Marcus accepted enthusiastically. I nodded my thanks. Diego went to the kitchen, and I could hear the coffee maker starting up. Marcus walked around the living room, examining the built-in bookshelves, looking out the windows again. He seemed pleased. "So," he said to me in English, not looking at me, "you like it?" "Very much," I answered honestly. "It's beautiful." "Yeah," he said, scratching his chin. "Not bad, although the price is inflated. I'm gonna have to work him down." Diego came back with a tray holding 3 cups of coffee and a small plate of cookies. We all sat down, me on the edge of the sofa, Marcus leaning back comfortably, Diego in the armchair across from us. Diego started talking again, and this time, his voice was softer, more personal. He spoke in Spanish, and I could hear the emotion in his words. "I've lived here for 3 years," he said. "I truly love this place. It's been a good home, but my wife back in Colombia is sick. She needs me. My children are there too. They're adults now, but they miss me, and I miss them. It's time to go home." There was sadness in his eyes as he spoke. This was clearly hard for him. Marcus listened, nodded, made appropriate sympathetic noises. Then he turned to me and said in English, "He's moving for work. Contract ended. Basic stuff." That's it. That's all he gave me. None of the emotion, none of the humanity, just clinical, cold facts. I felt anger starting to bubble up inside me, but I pushed it down. Not yet. Not yet. Diego and Marcus moved on to discussing the details of the sale. Diego named his price, $425,000. It was high, sure, but for this apartment, in this building, in this neighborhood, it was actually fair, maybe even a little low. Marcus immediately frowned and shook his head. He leaned forward and started bargaining, speaking quickly in Spanish. "That's too much," Marcus said. "The market is unstable right now. Prices are dropping. We've looked at a lot of places, and we have other options that are cheaper." Diego shook his head gently. "I understand, but this apartment is in excellent condition. The location is prime, all the documents are clean. You could move in immediately after closing." Marcus countered, $350,000. That's my offer. Diego's eyebrows went up. "That's far too low, my friend. I can't accept that." They went back and forth for a while, negotiating, arguing politely but firmly. I sat there, understanding every word, watching this dance. Finally, they settled on $395,000. A compromise. Diego looked relieved. Marcus looked triumphant. Then Marcus turned to me with this smug smile and said in English, "Got him down to $390,000. I'm good, right?" My stomach dropped. He just lied to my face, directly, boldly. The agreed price was $395,000, and he told me $390,000. $5,000. Where was that money going to go? Into his personal account? Was he planning to pocket it? I forced a smile and nodded. "That's great, baby." Inside, I was screaming. Diego pulled out some preliminary paperwork from a folder on the coffee table. He and Marcus started discussing logistics, closing dates, inspection schedules, lawyers. And then Diego asked the question. In Spanish, he said, "And for the deed, the title paperwork, do you want both your names on it, or just yours?" I stopped breathing. Everything in the room seemed to slow down. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, loud and fast like a drum. Marcus glanced at me. I was staring out the window, looking at the city skyline, my face carefully neutral. He must have assumed I was bored, not paying attention, lost in my own thoughts. He turned back to Diego, and in Spanish, clear as day, he said, "Solo el mío. Es más fácil así. Ella no necesita saber todos los detalles. No entiende estas cosas de todos modos. Just mine. It's easier that way. She doesn't need to know all the details. She doesn't understand these things anyway." time stopped. I swear to God, time completely stopped. I sat there, frozen, my coffee cup in my hands, staring at nothing. My brain was trying to process what I'd just heard, but it was like the words wouldn't compute. Like they were in a language I didn't actually speak, even though I understood every syllable. He was going to put the apartment in his name only. Our apartment, our home, the place we were supposed to live together, build a life together. And he was going to make sure only his name was on the deed. Which meant if anything happened, if we separated, if he decided he was done with me, I would have nothing. No claim, no rights, nothing. I would be thrown out of my own home with nothing to show for 16 years of marriage. My hand started shaking. I gripped the coffee cup so hard I thought it might shatter. But I kept staring out that window, kept my face blank, kept playing my role. Diego looked uncomfortable. I could see it in my peripheral vision. He shifted in his seat and said in Spanish, "Are you sure?" Usually, couples put both names on the deed. And Marcus, my husband of 16 years, the man I'd pledged my life to, laughed. He actually laughed. And then he said, in Spanish, words that felt like a knife sliding between my ribs. "Mira, es mi dinero. Yo pago todo. Ella solo vive de lo que yo proveo. ¿Para qué complicar las cosas?" Look, it's my money. I pay for everything. She just lives off what I provide. Why complicate things? Every word was a blow. She just lives off what I provide. Like I was a pet, a dependent, a burden he was graciously supporting out of the kindness of his heart. Not his wife, not his partner, not the woman who'd stood by him for 16 years, who'd sacrificed her own dreams and ambitions, who'd made herself smaller and smaller to make him feel bigger. Just some woman who lived off his money. I felt hot tears pricking at my eyes, but I blinked them back furiously. I couldn't cry. Not here. Not now. If I cried, he'd know something was wrong. He'd ask questions. The whole thing would fall apart. So I sat there, dying inside, while my face showed nothing. Marcus kept talking, and every word was worse than the last. "She's a good woman, don't get me wrong," he said to Diego in Spanish, like I wasn't sitting right there. "Keeps the house clean, cooks well. She's obedient, doesn't cause trouble. But business, real estate, financial decisions, that's not her world. That's man's work. She doesn't need to worry her pretty little head about ownership papers and legal documents." Pretty little head. Like I was a child. Like I was stupid. I wanted to throw my coffee in his face. I wanted to scream. I wanted to jump up and tell him in perfect Spanish exactly what I thought of him, and his lies and his disrespect. But I didn't. I sat there, silent, invisible, just like he wanted. Diego looked even more uncomfortable now. He said in Spanish, "I don't know, man. It doesn't feel right, not telling her. Shouldn't she be part of this decision?" And Marcus waved him off with his hand, dismissive, annoyed. "Don't worry about it. This is between you and me. She's happy as long as she has a nice place to live. Trust me, I know my wife. She doesn't care about this stuff. I know my wife." The worst part? He actually believed that. He genuinely thought he knew me. Thought I was so simple, so shallow, so empty-headed that all I cared about was having a nice apartment to live in. He had no idea who I was, no idea what I was capable of, no idea that I understood every single word coming out of his lying mouth. Diego nodded reluctantly. He clearly wasn't comfortable with the situation, but he let it go. They moved on to discussing other details. What furniture would stay, what Diego would take with him. Timeline for moving out. I heard none of it. My ears were ringing. My vision was starting to blur at the edges. I felt like I was underwater, drowning, and nobody could hear me screaming. They talked for another 40 minutes. I sat there like a statue, my coffee going cold in my hands. At some point, Diego looked at me with something that might have been pity in his eyes. Maybe he could see through my mask. Maybe he knew I was breaking apart inside. But he said nothing. Finally, Marcus stood up. Well, Diego, I think we have a deal. I'll be in touch Monday to move forward with the paperwork. Diego stood too, shook Marcus's hand. Then he turned to me and extended his hand. I stood on shaky legs and shook it. His grip was gentle, and his eyes searched my face for just a moment. I wondered what he saw there. We walked to the door. Marcus was chatting easily in Spanish, saying goodbye, making jokes. I followed behind like a ghost. We got in the elevator, the doors closed, and Marcus turned to me with the biggest smile I'd seen on his face in months. "Baby, that place is perfect," he said, his voice full of excitement. And I negotiated like a boss. Diego didn't even see me coming. We're getting a steal on that apartment. I stared at the numbers lighting up as we descended. 18. 17. 16. "You all right?" he asked. "You've been real quiet." "I'm fine," I managed to say. My voice sounded far away even to my own ears. "Just taking it all in." "Good. 'Cause this is about to change our lives. We're moving on up, T. Finally living like we deserve to live." We. He kept saying we. Like we were a team. Like we were partners. Like he hadn't just spent the last hour planning to steal my future right out from under me. We got in the car. Marcus was practically vibrating with energy. He turned on the radio, some upbeat song, and started singing along. I stared out the window as we drove through the city streets. Inside my head, I was replaying everything I'd heard, every word, every dismissive comment, every lie. Solo el mío, just mine. Ella solo vive de lo que yo proveo. She just lives off what I provide. No entiende estas cosas. She doesn't understand these things. That's not what hurt the most, though. I mean, it hurt. God, it hurt like hell. But what really broke me was the realization that this was how he'd seen me for years. Maybe always. Maybe from the very beginning. Not as a partner, not as an equal, as something he owned, something he controlled, something he could manipulate and deceive and discard whenever it suited him. 16 years. 16 years I'd given this man. 16 years of cooking his meals and cleaning his house and supporting his career and sacrificing my own dreams. 16 years of making myself smaller so he could feel bigger. 16 years of swallowing my voice so his could be louder. And this was how he repaid me. With lies and theft and contempt. We pulled into the parking lot of our apartment building. Marcus parked and stretched. Man, that was exhausting. I'm gonna take a nap. He got out of the car and walked toward the building, not even waiting for me. I sat there for a moment, my hands still gripping the steering wheel even though I wasn't driving. My whole body was shaking now. I took deep breaths, in, out, trying to calm down, trying to think clearly. But all I could think was, what now? What do I do now? I couldn't pretend I didn't hear what I heard. Couldn't unhear those words. Couldn't go back to being blind and ignorant and trusting. Everything had changed. Everything. I got out of the car and walked into our building. Up the stairs, down the hallway, through our front door. Marcus was already on the couch, remote in hand, TV on, some basketball game. He glanced up when I came in. "You want something to eat?" "I'm starving." "No," I said quietly. "I'm not hungry." "Suit yourself. I'm ordering pizza." I walked to our bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. My Spanish textbook was still hidden under the pillow where I'd shoved it yesterday. I pulled it out, held it in my hands, stared at the cover. This book, this secret, this skill I'd worked so hard to develop. It had just destroyed my entire world. Or maybe it had just revealed what was already destroyed. Maybe I'd been living in ruins for years and just couldn't see it because I'd been too afraid to look. I opened the notebook to the last page where I'd been writing vocabulary words. My handwriting looked so hopeful there, so earnest. Like I'd actually thought learning Spanish was just about personal growth, about challenging myself, about having something that was mine. But it turned out it was about survival, about discovering the truth, about seeing clearly for the first time in years who I'd married and what my life had become. I sat there for 2 hours while Marcus napped in the living room. Just sat there, staring at my notes, feeling everything inside me shift and rearrange. And then I felt something else, something I hadn't felt in years. Anger. Real, hot, burning anger. Not the quiet resentment I'd been carrying around like a heavy stone in my chest. Not the sad resignation to my fate. Not the defeated acceptance of my place in Marcus's world. No, this was different. This was rage, pure and clean and powerful. How dare he? How dare he treat me like this? Like I was nothing. Like I was stupid. Like I didn't matter. I wasn't stupid. I taught myself Spanish in less than a year. I managed an entire law office. I handled complex schedules and difficult personalities and last-minute crises with grace and competence every single day. I wasn't weak. I'd survived years of being dismissed and diminished and told I wasn't enough. I'd survived the pain of infertility and the death of dreams and the slow erosion of my marriage. I wasn't nothing. I was Tamara Jenkins. I was smart and capable and strong. I'd just forgotten it because he'd spent years convincing me otherwise. But I remembered now. I stood up from the bed, wiped my eyes, looked at myself in the mirror on the dresser. The woman looking back at me looked tired, sad, defeated. But there was something else there too, something I hadn't seen in a long time. Fire. I walked out of the bedroom. Marcus was still on the couch, pizza box open on the coffee table, grease staining his shirt, eyes glued to the TV. Marcus, I said. My voice came out stronger than I expected, clearer. He didn't look away from the screen. Marcus, I need to talk to you. Now. Tamara, halftime's almost over. Can it wait? No, I said. And this time my voice was sharp. It can't. Something in my tone made him look up. He frowned. What's wrong with you? Turn off the TV. Excuse me? I said turn off the TV. We need to talk. He stared at me for a moment, confused by this version of me he didn't recognize. Then he picked up the remote and muted the TV. Fine. What's so important? I walked closer, stood between him and the television, crossed my arms, looked him right in the eyes. Marcus, whose name is going on the deed for that apartment? He blinked, shifted uncomfortably. What? Both of ours. Obviously. Why you asking? Are you sure about that? Yeah, I'm sure. He was getting defensive now. Why? What's this about? So you're telling me, I said slowly, deliberately, that you plan to put both our names on the deed, mine and yours? Equal ownership? Yes, Tamara. He was getting annoyed now. That's what I just said. Why are you grilling me? I took a deep breath. This was it. The moment where everything either fell apart or finally came together. I looked at my husband. This man I'd loved for 16 years. This man who'd promised to cherish me. This stranger who'd been lying to my face for God knows how long. And I spoke. In perfect, fluent Spanish. Entonces, ¿por qué le dijiste a Diego que solo querías tu nombre en la escritura? Then why did you tell Diego you only wanted your name on the deed? The look on his face. God, I'll never forget the look on his face. All the color drained away. His mouth fell open. His eyes went wide. He looked like he'd been struck by lightning. What? He stammered. What did you just? I didn't break eye contact. Didn't blink. Just stood there, letting him absorb what had just happened. You speak Spanish? The words came out strangled, disbelieving. Sí, I said coldly. Hablo español, y escuché cada palabra que dijiste hoy. Yes, I speak Spanish, and I heard every word you said today. He stood up from the couch so fast, he knocked the pizza box onto the floor. Grease splattered on the carpet. He didn't even notice. Tamara, wait, you don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said, switching back to English. I understand that you told Diego to put the apartment in only your name. I understand that you said I don't need to know all the details because I don't understand these things anyway. I understand that you said I just live off what you provide. Should I go on? Because I remember every single word, Marcus. Every single word. His face went from white to red. He was panicking. I could see his mind racing, trying to figure out how to spin this, how to explain it away, how to make it my fault somehow. Baby, listen, I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it, Marcus? My voice was getting louder now. All that anger, all that pain, all those years of swallowing my words, it was all coming up and out. How exactly did you mean it when you told a complete stranger that I'm too stupid to worry my pretty little head about ownership papers? I never said you were stupid. You said I don't understand these things. You said it's man's work. You said I just live off what you provide like I'm some kind of parasite. I was just talking, just saying whatever to close the deal. You were planning to steal from me? I was shouting now, and I didn't care. You were going to put our home, that we're buying together, that I would be living in only your name, so that if anything happened, I would have nothing. Do you understand what you were doing to me? It's not like that. I was gonna add you to the deed later. When, Marcus? When? After I had no choice. After you'd already established ownership. After you had all the power and I had none. He started to speak, but I cut him off. You know what the worst part is? It's not even the apartment. It's that you've been doing this to me for years, making decisions without me, controlling everything, dismissing my opinions, making me feel small and stupid and worthless. And I let you. I let you convince me that I didn't matter, that my voice didn't count, that I should just be grateful you keep me around. That's not fair. What's not fair, I said, and my voice broke, is that I gave you 16 years of my life, 16 years of standing by you, supporting you, sacrificing my own dreams for yours. And you repay me by treating me like I'm nothing. You're not nothing. Then why? Why would you plan to exclude me from owning our home? Why would you lie to me about the HOA fees and the price you negotiated? Why would you talk about me with contempt to a stranger? Explain it to me, Marcus. He opened his mouth, closed it, ran his hands over his face. He looked cornered, desperate. I don't know, he finally said. It's what made sense. It's simpler if one person owns it. And I make more money, so you think that gives you the right to have all the power? To make me completely dependent on you? You are dependent on me, he shouted back, and there it was. The truth he'd been holding back. You think your little office job pays the bills? I'm the one keeping us afloat. I'm the one with the real career. Without me, where would you be? There it is, I said quietly. There's what you really think. That I'm useless. That I contribute nothing. That you're doing me some huge favor by letting me exist in your presence. I didn't say that. You've been saying it for years. Maybe not with those exact words, but with every dismissive comment, every decision you made without me. Every time you reminded me that you make the money and you pay the bills, and I should just shut up and be grateful. Marcus was breathing hard. His fists were clenched. For a moment, I wondered if he would hit me, but he just stood there, shaking with anger or fear or both. How long? He finally asked. How long have you been learning Spanish? 10 months. 10 months. He laughed bitterly. 10 months you've been lying to me, keeping secrets, and now you're mad at me? Are you seriously trying to make this about me learning a language? You hid it from me. You deceived me. Because every time I try to do something for myself, you crush it. I was crying now, tears streaming down my face, but I didn't care. You laughed at my dreams. You told me I was wasting money, wasting time, that I should just stick to cooking and cleaning and being your perfect little wife who never asks questions or has opinions or wants anything for herself. I never said that. You didn't have to. You showed me. Every single day, you showed me exactly how little you thought of me. We stood there, both breathing hard, both crying now, 16 years of resentment and pain, and unspoken anger finally breaking through the surface. Do you even love me anymore? I asked quietly. Be honest, Marcus. Do you? He looked at me. Really looked at me. And I saw the answer in his eyes before he even opened his mouth. He didn't. He hadn't for a long time. Maybe ever. He couldn't say it. Couldn't admit it out loud. But his silence said everything. That's what I thought, I whispered. I walked to the couch, sat down heavily. All the anger had drained out of me, leaving behind just exhaustion and grief. I want a divorce, I said. The words felt surreal coming out of my mouth. But they also felt right. True. Marcus's head snapped up. What? You heard me. I want a divorce. Tamara, you're overreacting. I'm finally reacting. That's the problem. I should have done this years ago. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. He started pacing, running his hands through his hair. Okay. Look, we can work this out. We can go to counseling, talk to somebody. There's nothing to work out, Marcus. You don't love me. You don't respect me. You see me as a burden, as something you own. Why would I stay in a marriage like that? Because... He stopped, searching for words. Because we've been together for 16 years. You can't just throw that away. I'm not throwing it away. You already did. Years ago. I'm just finally accepting it. You're making a huge mistake, he said. And now his voice turned cold. Mean. You leave me, you'll have nothing. This apartment? It's in my name. The car? Mine. Your salary can barely cover groceries. You really think you can make it on your own? There it was. The threat I knew was coming. The attempt to scare me back into submission. But I wasn't scared anymore. Then I'll figure it out, I said calmly. I'll get a smaller place. I'll budget. I'll make it work. You'll be living in some roach-infested studio in the worst part of town. Maybe, but it'll be mine, my space, my life, my choice, and that's worth more than all the granite countertops in the world. He stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Maybe I was. Maybe he'd never heard me speak my truth before. You'll come crawling back, he said, when reality hits you. When you realize you can't make it without me, you'll come back. I looked at him. This man I'd shared my bed with, my life with, my dreams with, and I felt nothing. No love, no hate, just emptiness. No, Marcus, I said quietly. I won't, because the person I needed, he's been gone for a long time, and I'm done mourning him. He grabbed his keys and wallet off the table. Fine. I'm going to Troy's place. Gonna stay there for a while. And when you come to your senses, you know my number. He walked to the door, then turned back. You're gonna regret this, he said. The only thing I regret, I replied, is not doing it sooner. He slammed the door so hard the pictures on the wall shook. And then I was alone. I sat there on the couch, surrounded by silence, by the pieces of my broken life scattered around me like that spilled pizza on the carpet. And I broke. I absolutely broke. I slid off the couch onto the floor and sobbed. Huge, ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that came from somewhere deep inside, from a place I'd been holding closed for years. I cried for the girl I was at 22 who thought love would be enough. I cried for all the dreams I'd buried. I cried for the children I'd never have. I cried for 16 years of slow, painful erosion. I cried for the woman I'd become, small and quiet and invisible. But mostly, I cried from relief, because it was over. It was finally over. I didn't have to pretend anymore, didn't have to make myself small, didn't have to swallow my words or hide my dreams or accept crumbs of affection and call it love. I was free. It didn't feel like freedom yet. It felt like devastation, like my whole world had imploded. But somewhere, under all that pain, under all that grief, there was a tiny spark of something else. Hope. I cried until I had no tears left. Then I sat there on the floor, in the quiet apartment, breathing, existing, being. Eventually, I stood up, went to the bedroom, pulled out my Spanish textbook, and I wrote in it, in Spanish, words I needed to say, needed to claim, needed to make real. Soy más fuerte de lo que pensaba. Voy a superar esto. Voy a tener éxito. I am stronger than I thought. I will get through this. I will succeed. I closed the book, looked out the window at the city lights starting to twinkle as evening fell. Tomorrow, I would call a lawyer. Tomorrow, I would start figuring out my next steps. Tomorrow, I would begin the hard work of rebuilding my life. But tonight, I just needed to sit with this, to let it be real, to accept that my marriage was over and mourn what I'd hoped it could have been. Outside my window, the world kept turning. People were living their lives, having their own dramas, fighting their own battles. And I was just one woman in a city of millions, sitting alone in a tiny apartment, trying to figure out how to start over at 38. But I wasn't scared. Not really, because I'd already survived the hardest part. I'd survived discovering that the person who was supposed to love me most in the world saw me as nothing. And I'd found the strength to walk away. Everything else? That was just logistics. Monday morning, I woke up early. Marcus still hadn't come home, hadn't even texted. I got dressed for work, made coffee, tried to act like it was a normal day, but my hands were shaking as I stirred sugar into my cup. I had Diego's number from the real estate listing. At 9 a.m., before I lost my nerve, I called it. He answered on the third ring. Hello? I took a deep breath and spoke in Spanish. Diego, this is Tamara, Marcus's wife from Saturday. There was a pause. Then, Tamara? You speak Spanish? Yes. I heard your entire conversation with my husband. Every word. Another pause. Longer this time. Then he said, softly, I thought so. Your face. I could see you understood. I'm so sorry I didn't say something. It's not your fault, I said, surprised by how steady my voice was. You didn't create the situation. You just witnessed it. Still, I should have spoken up. It wasn't right what he was planning. No, it wasn't. That's why I'm calling. We won't be buying the apartment. I'm sorry to have wasted your time. Wait, he said quickly. Don't apologize, but can I ask, what happened after you left? So I told him. Everything. The confrontation. Marcus's reaction. My decision to divorce. It all came pouring out to this stranger who'd inadvertently exposed my husband's true character. When I finished, Diego was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that changed everything. Tamara, if you want, I can hold the apartment for you. Just you. I almost dropped the phone. What? The apartment. If you want it, it's yours. I'll lower the price. I'll wait while you figure out financing. My daughter went through something similar with her ex-husband. I watched her struggle. I wish someone had helped her then, so let me help you now. I started crying. Again. I seem to be doing that a lot lately. Why would you do that for me? I asked through my tears. You don't even know me. Because you deserve better, he said simply. And because I think you're much stronger than you know. You taught yourself Spanish in less than a year. You found the courage to confront your husband. You chose yourself even when it was terrifying. That takes strength, Tamara. I don't know if I can afford it, I admitted, even with a lower price. Let's find out. I have a good lawyer who specializes in divorce cases. She can help you understand what you're entitled to. And I'll work with you on the price. We'll figure it out. I couldn't speak. This stranger, this man who owed me nothing, was offering me a lifeline. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you so much. Call me when you're ready, he said. No pressure, but the apartment is yours if you want it. We hung up, and I sat there staring at my phone. Maybe this was a sign. Maybe I was supposed to fight for that apartment, for that beautiful space with the floor-to-ceiling windows and the view of the whole city. Not because of Marcus, but for me, because I deserved it. That same day, I called the lawyer Diego recommended. Her name was Cheryl Jenkins, and she had this warm, no-nonsense voice that immediately put me at ease. I went to her office after work, told her everything. She listened without interrupting, taking notes, nodding. When I finished, she looked at me with fierce eyes and said, "Baby, I see this all the time. Men who think they can control everything, who think their wives are just accessories to their lives. But the law doesn't see it that way." "What can I get?" I asked. "In the divorce?" "We're in a community property state," she explained. "Married 16 years? You're entitled to half of everything acquired during the marriage. Half the equity in your current apartment. Half his 401k and retirement accounts. And spousal support while you get on your feet." I stared at her. "Really?" "Really? You've earned it, Tamara. Every penny. You supported him, sacrificed for him, built a life with him. That has value. Legal, financial value. And we're going to make sure you get what you deserve." For the first time since Saturday, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was going to be okay. I filed for divorce that week, had Marcus served with papers at his office. He called me immediately, furious and panicking. "You really did it? You actually filed? I told you I would. You're making a huge mistake. We can still fix this." "There's nothing to fix, Marcus. It's over. You're going to ruin me financially." "No, I'm claiming what I'm legally entitled to, what I earned by standing by you for 16 years. Tamara, please." "Goodbye, Marcus." I hung up, blocked his number, and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The next few months were hard, really hard. The divorce process was draining, emotionally and financially. Marcus fought me on everything, trying to claim he deserved more because he'd contributed more. But Cheryl was relentless. She fought for every dollar I was owed. During this time, I made other changes too. I updated my resume, added fluent in Spanish right at the top, started applying for better jobs, positions that would actually use my skills. I got called for an interview at an international consulting firm downtown. The HR manager looked at my resume and said, "You taught yourself Spanish in less than a year? That's incredible initiative." "Thank you," I said, sitting up straighter. "I'm a fast learner, and when I commit to something, I see it through." They offered me the job 3 days later. $68,000 a year, almost double what I'd been making, with benefits, bonuses, opportunities for advancement. I cried when I got the call. Happy tears this time. With my new salary and the equity I'd get from the divorce settlement, I could afford Diego's apartment. Barely, but I could do it. I called him. "Diego? It's Tamara. If the offer still stands, I want the apartment." "It's yours," he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "Welcome home, Tamara." 6 months after that terrible Saturday, I stood in the middle of my apartment. My apartment, with my name on the deed, just my name. The space was empty, except for the furniture Diego had left, but it was mine, all mine. I walked to those floor-to-ceiling windows, looked out at the city spread below me, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace, I texted my mama. I did it. I really did it. She texted back immediately. I'm so proud of you, baby girl. Come home for Sunday dinner. I want to hear everything. Over the next few weeks, I decorated. I chose bright colors, African art, plants everywhere. Things Marcus would have hated. Things that made Emmy happy. I got my hair cut, let my natural curls free, bought new clothes that made me feel confident and beautiful, started taking care of myself again. And I signed up for salsa classes, the thing Marcus had laughed at years ago, the dream I'd buried. Turned out, I didn't have 2 left feet. I was actually pretty good. The music made me feel alive. The movement freed something in me that had been locked up for too long. I made friends in the class. Real friends who liked me for me. Not because I was Marcus's quiet wife. And I met Carlos. He was 40, a social worker, kind and gentle with these warm brown eyes that actually saw me, really saw me. After class one night, he asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I hesitated. I just got divorced. I'm not sure I'm ready. He smiled. How about coffee as friends then, no pressure? We talked for 3 hours. He listened, actually listened, asked my opinion, valued what I had to say. He told me about his work helping families in crisis, about his 2 kids he co-parented with his ex-wife, about his love of music and cooking and hiking. And I told him my story, everything, the Spanish lessons, the apartment viewing, the betrayal, the divorce. When I finished, he reached across the table and took my hand. You're incredible, he said. You know that. I laughed, embarrassed. I'm not. I'm just trying to figure things out. You taught yourself a language. You found the strength to leave a toxic marriage. You bought your own apartment. You're building a whole new life. That's not just trying. That's being a warrior. Something in my chest cracked open. In a good way. We kept meeting for coffee. Just friends for a while. But slowly, over months, it became more. The first time he kissed me, I cried. Did I do something wrong? He asked, concerned. No, I said, laughing through my tears. I just forgot it could feel like this, like someone actually cares about me. I do care, he said softly, more than I probably should after knowing you such a short time. But there's something about you, Tamra, something real and strong and beautiful. For the first time in 16 years, I felt cherished. 1 year after that devastating Saturday, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone buzzed. A text from Carlos. Thinking of you. Want to come over for dinner? My kids want to meet the woman I won't stop talking about. I smiled, typed back. I'd love that. A year ago, I thought my life was over. I thought without Marcus, I was nothing, that I couldn't survive. But I didn't just survive. I thrived. I have my own apartment, my own career, my own life, and maybe, just maybe, a chance at real love, the kind that lifts you up instead of crushing you down. Learning Spanish wasn't just about the language. It was about proving to myself that I could do hard things, that I was smart enough, disciplined enough, strong enough. And when I heard those words in Diego's apartment, yes, it shattered me, but it also freed me. Because I finally saw the truth I'd been hiding from for years. Marcus didn't love me. Maybe he never did, or maybe he did once and forgot how. Either way, I wasn't going to spend another day making myself smaller so he could feel bigger. At 38, I felt ancient, used up, finished. Now, at 39, I feel like I'm just getting started. So to anyone watching this who feels invisible in their own life, who's been told they're not smart enough, not strong enough, not enough, you are enough. You just need to bet on yourself. Because the person you're waiting to save you, it's not your husband, your parents, your friends. It's you. It's always been you. That day in Diego's apartment, I heard my husband say I was nothing. But I proved him wrong. I am Tamara Jenkins. I am 39 years old. I speak 2 languages. I own my own home. I have a career I'm proud of. I have people who love me and see me and value me. And I did it all by myself. So yeah, I'm enough. I always was. I just had to learn to believe it. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If it touched you in any way, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and if you've ever felt invisible in your own relationship, let's support each other. Let's remind each other that we're stronger than we think. If you want to help me keep making these videos, there's a donation link in the description. Every bit helps, and I appreciate you more than you know. I post new real-life stories every single day. 2 of my most popular videos are popping up on your screen right now. Choose one and keep this journey going. Remember, you're stronger than you think. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be valued. You deserve to be loved. And you don't need anyone's permission to choose yourself. Until next time, stay strong, stay true, and never, ever let anyone make you feel small. You matter. Your voice matters. Your dreams matter. Don't ever forget that.